Hello again, I'm Rahena. We're playing more of Gakuen Heaven 2. This is the kind of major scene with Professor Sakaki explaining his past, explaining his reasons for being such a harsh teacher and having such harsh opinions about things, disliking the school. So he's explaining things in an abstract way. I think because it's a painful story, it's easier to talk about something as if it were a story that happened to someone else rather than saying, I did this happened to me, this was a story of me and my friends, and how basically we didn't succeed in what we wanted to do. So for the moment, he's still alpha, beta, theta, talking about everybody in completely abstract terms. Clearly alpha is his friend who had to drop out because of dyslexia that was undiscovered. Beta is Sakaki, who received the platinum paper that he didn't want or need. And Theta is their female friend who also became a teacher. And Yuki here is asking, so what happened to Beta, who was left? The only one who was left. The other two dropped out of things. So Alpha, the male friend, dropped out of school because of his learning disability. Theta, who also became a teacher, ended up dropping out because she worked so hard for her ideals and realized that she could not change the system as just one teacher by herself. So, what happened to Sakaki after that?
彼は理想は追わず、学校経営側が求めるままに高レベルの授業を厳しく行った。
He didn't pursue ideals. He conducted intense, high-level classes just the way the school management wanted.
結果、学校の評判を上げるほどの優秀な生徒を輩出した。
And as a result, it churned out enough excellent students to raise the school's reputation. And that's a very unflattering word for churned out that he's using. It's basically like pooped out. So the school just wanted to produce the best students at any cost, as we'll find out.
だがそれは全体の中のほんの一握りだ。
But it was only a small handful out of all the students.
その裏では多くの脱落者がいたことだろ
う。Behind the scenes, there must have been many who dropped out.
だが、求められる結果のためには、それは仕方のないことだった。
But to achieve the desired result, it couldn't be helped.
榊先生。
So you can kind of sense the resentment there at doing that, even though he did what they wanted. He's not okay with it.
そんなある日、彼に BL 学園に赴任する話が持ち上がった。
Then, one day, the topic of transferring him to BL school came up.
彼の友人たちの人生を振り回した諸悪の根源とも言える学園だ。
The school that you could say was the root of all the evils that controlled his friends' lives.
内心恨みがましい思いを抱いていたが、そこがどんなところか実際に確かめてやろうと思った。
In his heart, he felt resentment, but he thought he wanted to see for himself what kind of place it was.
そして、その学園への赴任話を受けることにした。
And so he accepted the transfer to that school.
その赴任してきた先生が榊先生だったんですね。
So the teacher who transferred was you, Professor Sakaki. No response.
その教師は BL 学園でも前にいた進学校と同じ授業を行った。
So at that point, he's still not ready to kind of claim it as I, because he's still talking about it as if it's someone else. That teacher conducted the same classes at BL school as he had at the prep school.
しかしその結果は前の学校とは全く違うものだった。
But the result was completely different than at the previous school.
同じ植物の芽でもいろんなものがある。
I really like this part. Even shoots of the same plant are all different.
踏まれても起き上がってくるやつ。折れたままのやつ。中には踏まれた方が強くなるものもある。
There are those that stand back up when stepped on, and those that stay bent. And among them, there are even those that get stronger for being stepped on.
その差は生まれついての才能なのか。
Maybe the difference is an inborn ability.
それとも環境や周囲にいる人間のおかげなのか、単なる気持ちの問題なのか。
Or maybe it's thanks to their environment and the people around them, or maybe simply a matter of mood.
理由はわからない。
He didn't know the reason.
だがこの学園に選ばれるやつはどこか違うのかもしれないな。
But maybe there was something different about the people who were chosen by this school.
この学園の理念には確かに優れている部分はあるが、抱えている問題も多々ある。
It's true there are some excellent parts about the ideology of the school, but it also holds many problems.
この学園の理念や方針、恣意的な入学形式。
This school's ideology and policies, its arbitrary entrance system.
加えて、大人の問題を笠原のような子供に押し付けた前理事長の思惑。
Additionally, the previous director's expectations that foisted adult problems on a child like Kasahara.
そんなものに納得がいかなかったのもあるが、
There were also things like that he couldn't accept.
単に思い知らせてやりたかったんだよ。
He simply wanted to teach a
こ
lesson.
こに通う生徒全員に、お前らがいかに恵まれた環境にいるのかってことをな。
To all the students who attend here about how privileged an environment they're in.
この学園にいると忘れてしまいがちになるが、
Being at this school, you tend to forget.
お前らのこの学園での生活は、ここに選ばれなかった多くの落語者の上に成り立っているってことをな。
That your life at this school is built on the backs of the many failures who were not chosen to be here.
だから廃校案を出せという榊グループの意向に沿ったのはちょっとした意趣返しのつもりだったんだ。
And so, announcing the proposal to close the school and going along with the wishes of the Sakaki group was a bit of revenge.
その結果、お前たちは俺の期待や想像以上のものを見せてくれた。
And he's finally talking about himself, As a result, you all showed me something that was beyond my hopes and expectations.
だから俺はお前たちの味方につくことに決めたんだ。
That's why I decided to side with you.
だがそれは俺の個人的な理由で、この学園や生徒のためなんかじゃない。
But that was for my own personal reasons, not for the school or the students.
お前に先手を取られて止められはしたが、
You stopped me from taking the initiative, but
もとよりここである程度榊グループに恩義を果たしたらやめるつもりでいたんだ。
originally, once I fulfilled my obligation to the Sakaki group to a certain extent, I planned to quit.
ここは確かにいい学園だ。
This really is a good school.
生徒の質も教師の職場としても申し分ない。
In the quality of the students and as a place to work as a teacher, you can't ask for more.
だがこの学園の外にはその恩恵を受けられない人がたくさんいる。
But there are a lot of people outside the school who didn't receive that privilege.
だからここを辞めた後は友人たちの意思を継いでここでの経験を他校で生かすつもりだった。
That's why, after I quit, I intended to follow in my friend's footsteps and use my experience here at other schools.
だがそれもどうやら難しくなったみたいだ。
But it seems even that would be difficult now.
どういうことですか？
What do you mean?
外部に悪い噂を流された。
A bad rumor has spread about me outside.
俺が前の学園で不正を働いていたってな。
That I worked unethically at my previous school.
そんな、一体誰がそんなひどいことを。
What? Who would do something so cruel?
俺の兄だ。
My older brother.
いわば命令を聞かずにこの学園に味方した俺への仕返しだな。
It's a sort of retaliation for me not listening to his orders and siding with the school.
おかげで俺はこの学園の外での再就職が絶望的になったというわけだ。
Thanks to that, there's no hope of getting reemployed outside this school. So I don't know if his brother knew what he was doing or if he just kind of got lucky in a sense in spreading those rumors. He just came up with the most easy and childish thing he could think of. Because this is really made it very difficult. It's basically stepping on his dream. He can't do anything now.
ドロップアウトしたあいつらの復讐のつもりでここにいたってのにな。
Even though I was here for revenge for those who dropped out.
今となっては居場所がここにしかないときた。
Right now, this is the only place I have.
まったく皮肉な話だろ。
Jeez, it's so ironic.
少し長話になったが、俺がここに来たのはそういうわけだ。
That was a bit of a long story, but that's why I came here.
だからお前らと一緒に祝勝パーティーするような気分にはなれないんだよ。
So that's why I'm not in the mood to celebrate with you.
わかったか？
Do you understand? Alright, so that ended up being actually shorter than I remembered. It's probably because when I was going through it, or when my wife and I were going through it, we just kept stopping and chit-chatting about every little thing, every little implication here, because this is such a critical scene. It's kind of a lot to absorb in one shot, but it explains everything that, just like all that deeper backstory of becoming a teacher basically for the sake of his friends, because just as now kind of accused him on the rooftop there, you like the school, and kind of suggesting that maybe he's a bit idealistic too, and that's kind of the thing. That's what I think now is almost like the foil to Professor Sakaki, where he's the person who is the idealist, who has all these dreams and is motivated to put plans and changes into action. And Sakaki is the idealist who has been hurt, who has been just wounded by the real world just too badly, and at such a young age too, that he's just doing everything he can to push all that aside and be like, you know what, the world's a cruel place. Reality is harsh. And I had to learn that lesson at such an early age, so all these kids who just either, paid their way into this fancy private school, or these kids who are attending this ridiculous, amazing school where only like 100 students attend and everybody else is a failure who didn't get invited. They need to learn a lesson. They need to understand that the world is not easy, and there are so many other people who don't have the opportunities, or like his friend, people who should have had opportunities but didn't because the system failed them. So it's a pretty serious situation. It's obviously a lot more realistic than some of the other stories we've seen. I mean, I love Joker's backstory, but it's a little crazy. Fell out of a plane, messed up his senses. That's a little hard to swallow. This kind of hits pretty hard for me because I'm an adult, obviously, sort of. And this kind of story really speaks to me about the conflict between being idealistic and the reality of what real life is like. And kind of that part also earlier where he was saying, some things when they're stepped on, they stay bent. Some things when they're stepped on get back up again. And others get stronger. He seems to be the type that has been bent by being stepped on by his circumstances and has not been able to get back up. And it doesn't make anybody good or bad, it just makes people different. They have different levels of tolerance for things, and I like to think that the professor's actually a pretty sensitive, kind person underneath all that prickly exterior that he's set up to protect himself from all that harshness and all those things that have happened in the past that have made him bitter. So I could ramble on about this for quite some time, but I think I'm going to stop here. There's more to this scene, of course, where Yuki is going to kind of turn things around, do his usual thing where he finds out the story of someone and it just affects him. It just moves him so much that he can't stop himself from trying to do something about it. And we'll see that next time. So thank you for watching. I hope that was interesting, helped explain a little bit or a lot about the professor's motivations and how he feels about things. Gives you a little insight into a lot of things, the problems with the school, why he had now kind of argued a bit sometimes and things like that. So I'm just going to stop here because I am definitely rambling. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.